Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Had a week's break with this. Well, For the Love of Horror was taking place last weekend. Thank you to everybody that I met up with up there. It was a great 3 or 4 days. 3 days, was it? Did we turn 2 days into 3 days? 3 days, yeah. And so I just had to postpone this episode and return to it tonight. 1987. A good year. They've all been good years, though. And there was a lot of pressure on with this one. A lot of fights over Predator and things like that. Just like in the past, we've had fights over Terminator and what was the other one? Aliens as well. So I put it out to a vote, and 80% of you across 2 votes thought that Predator deserved to be in the horror of 1987. And it's in here. I put it in. A lot of people not happy, though. Also, I succumbed to a bit of pressure during the week from actually over the last 2 weeks, with people telling me that Jaws the Revenge should be in here as well. And although I didn't advertise it, at the last minute today, I've added it in. So Jaws the Revenge is part of the vote. 21 today. We've got 21. We usually have 20 to vote on, but 21 is the number. So this might take a little longer than it normally does because we've started a little bit later. The reason why I've started a little bit later is I wanted more people to kind of jump into the stream before we start voting, because the way that this voting system works is that it starts off with the first letter of the alphabet, and Elm Street always ends up first. So I wanted to give that a fair crack of the whip. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is the first film that we're going to be voting on. So I just wanted to make sure that as many people were in here as possible so that they can vote for A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. The link for the voting is in the chat. It's pinned in the chat. I'm just going to paste it into the chat again. There we go. Thank you to everybody that's joined already. We've got over 60 people here already. We've only been on for a couple of minutes. And thank you to everybody that joined me and Dave last week for the little kind of live stream we did in the same. It's really weird doing something in a room where someone sat at the side of you, because you're used to kind of conversing and looking at their face, not sort of turning to the side all the time when they're sat at the side of you. But it was good fun. I enjoyed it, and it was great having Dave round for a couple of days and then spending the whole convention with him. We really did have a really cool time. And like I said, those of you that came up and said hello, it was good to see everyone. And those of you that we regularly sort of hang out with, it was good to see you guys as well. Okay, so before we start the tier ranking, I'll move over here and we'll have a little look at what was happening in 1987. Some of the pop culture things that were going on, just to get your head in the space. And you know, back into 1987. I see some people in the chat there were saying that they were born in 1987. That's pretty cool. It was a good year for horror. Don Mac says Jaws 4, that number matches a tier level perfectly. Yeah, I tend to think that might end up fairly low in the ranking, but we'll see. In fact, I have no idea. Given the titles that we've got, we have some really strong horror movies, but there aren't too many that, for me, really stand out above the crowd, because I know there will be some of you in there that are going to vote against Predator. But there are things like Elm Street 3, there's, what else have we got? Hellraisers in there, Evil Dead 2, they're possible contenders. Then you've also got the Lost Boys as well, definitely a contender, I think. And Prince of Darkness is in there as well, a really solid Carpenter film. So it's going to be really interesting to see which 2 movies land on top. In fact, before I go over to the pop culture stuff, let's just have a look at the finalists so far. Here we go. So we have The Fog, The Shining from 1980. 81 was Halloween 2, An American Werewolf in London. And then in 82, we had The Thing and Creepshow. Psycho 3 and Thriller in 83. 84 was Friday the 13th, the final chapter in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And then Fright Night and Return of the Living Dead conquered 1985. And then 2 weeks ago, we had two kind of sci-fi horrors capitalize on the vote, which was Aliens and The Fly. So all those movies are going through to the final, which will happen in around about, when would it be now? I think it's going to be about 3 or 4 weeks' time. It's getting closer. I don't have anything in the way over the next few weeks that's going to stop me from doing these shows over the next 3 or 4 Thursdays. Actually, no, we've got 2 episodes after this one, so it should be 3 weeks' time, actually. So there you go. Hey, Johnny, I see you're in the chat there. Johnny says, for the love of horror was awesome time with everyone. It was. It was good to see you and Steph. Zara's in there too. Good to see you. What else have we got? And Barry's in there as well. Nards were born in 1987. They were. Wolfman's got Nards. We have the Monster Squad in here. Who knows? There's a lot of fans of the Monster Squad out there. I actually like the Monster Squad more than I do Goonies. So let's see what happens with that one. Okay. Let's move over to the pop culture things before we start. So, first off, in 1987, Dirty Dancing has the time of its life. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey dance their way into film history, making Nobody Puts Baby in a Corner one of the most quoted lines ever. And I believe Barry, in fact, we did a show about 3 or 4 years ago where Barry was very open and upfront. As Barry of Wolfman's Got Nards was very open and upfront about how Dirty Dancing is one of his favorite movies of all time. The Simpsons make their debut. Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie first appeared as short segments on The Tracy Ullman Show. I didn't know it was on The Tracy Ullman Show. That's interesting. 2 years before getting their own series. And then Nintendo drops Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Gamers battle through King Hippo and Bald Bull to face Iron Mike himself in one of the decade's most iconic NES games. Just refresh that page. Michael Jackson unleashes Bad. MJ's follow-up to Thriller landed with a string of #1 singles. Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Smooth Criminal all came from this album cycle. In fact, I remember the Bad video launching on TV, like the world premiere of it. Predator hits the jungle. More of that later. Arnold Schwarzenegger took on one of cinema's coolest creatures, spawning catchphrases like "Get to the chopper" and redefining 80s action sci-fi. And the stock market crashes on Black Monday. On October the 19th, Wall Street suffered its biggest one-day drop in history. But in true 80s spirit, the economy eventually bounced back. The first Where's Waldo book appears. Martin Hanford's Striped Shirt Wanderer debuted in 1987, turning picture book searching into an international obsession. I think if I know this right, Where's Waldo? I'm sure that's what we in the UK know as Where's Wally. I think it's called Wally. And is that the guy with the sort of red and white striped shirt where he's just in a big old field of people and you got to find him? The Fox network launches. Fox became the fourth US TV network, introducing shows like Married with Children, The Tracy Ullman Show, which helped shape 90s pop culture. Interesting that Tracy Ullman was so... I mean, you know, obviously she's British, and I know her from a TV show in the early 80s called Three of a Kind. Like a sketch show, but she became huge in the US. She had a little pop career in the UK and then went on to become absolutely huge in the US. Lethal Weapon redefines the buddy cop movie. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover's mismatched partners' chemistry set the gold standard for action comedies. Comedies? Had a little comedy in it. I guess 2 and 3 were a little more comedic than the first one, but call it a comedy? I think it's a humorous action movie, but anyway. And U2 releases The Joshua Tree with hits like With or Without You, Where the Streets Have No Name. U2 reached global superstardom and dominated radio all year long. So that's 1987. A good year. I remember it well. I remember going to see a lot of these movies that we're going to talk about now, either in the cinema or on VHS. In fact, actually sneaking into the cinema to see one of them because I wasn't old enough. But yeah, a really, really solid year. So let's move over to this screen just here, where you can see that, as I said before, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, is the first movie that we're going to be casting our votes on. Let me just get my notes ready for when we start voting. Take it down to the bottom there, 1 second. There we go. And I'll start the vote right now. 90 seconds to vote on A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Released on February the 27th, 1987. A budget of around about $4.5 million and went on to make $44.8 million. And, you know, some people call it the best in the franchise. I like it. I think it's aged quite a bit over the years. I think some of the effects work in it doesn't look quite as good as what it does in some of the other movies. But it's still a solid entry. A 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. Heather Langenkamp, Patricia Arquette, Larry Fishburne, Robert Englund, John Saxon, Jar Jar Gabor, Priscilla Pointer. A big old cast for this one with kind of legacy characters and new characters coming into it as well. What else have we got here? Directed by Chuck Russell, who went on to do The Mask and Eraser and things like that. Nancy Thompson is now a psychiatrist working in a mental hospital where young patients afflicted by nightmares are tormented by Freddy Krueger. Kristen Parker has the power to pull others into her dreams. Together they form the Dream Warriors to battle Freddy in the dream world and rescue one of their own. 14 seconds left, folks, to vote on Elm Street 3. There's a bunch of people that aren't putting it in the top slot there. Interesting. 2, 1, 0. There we go. Voting's paused and it's in first place. 58% of the vote. That's 22 of you voted it in first place. 9 of you voted it in second. 3 of you in third. 4 of you in fourth. And nobody voted it in fifth. So, yeah, Elm Street 3 Dream. I remember I didn't see this at the cinema. I was too young and probably not courageous enough to sneak in. That was later on in the year when Predator came along. But I did see it. I stood around. I remember standing in the video shop the day that it was released, waiting for the postman to arrive with the stock for the video shop. And then I rented it. So the ironic thing there is I wasn't old enough to go to the cinema, but the video shop would let me take it. So yeah, I remember the artwork on the front was completely different to the artwork that you see there. It had Freddy in a big sort of grey, huge sort of thick overcoat, sort of crouching down and bending forward with the glove. Really, really different artwork, kind of a photograph artwork, but something that's really stayed with me. Okay, let's have a look at the chat here and see what people are saying. Awesome 50 says Nightmare 3 is top. Let me just move this to there so it's not covering up. Nightmare 3 is top tier for me. Best Elm Street sequel. Patricia Arquette screaming was annoying in Dream Warriors. I'm not fond of screaming either, but I don't mind Dream Warriors. It's okay. Do I vote in the box under the title or the vertical line? So when you open up the page, you will get a series of colored boxes. Red being top tier, all the way down to green, which is the bottom tier. So just tap one of those buttons and that should register a vote for you. I think it gets like a little gray outline around the box once you've successfully submitted your vote. Barry says Dream Warriors is just all right. Okay. One of the better sequels, not watched for a long time, says the Count. What a rush. Yeah. And also the let's get high. I love that. I used it in the video at the start. I love it when he's got the hypodermics for his instead of the glove. Great stuff. Colin says, oh, hey, Colin, good to see you. Colin, one of the guys that I hung out with all weekend. We had a blast for the love of horror. Good to see you, mate. It hasn't aged well at all. To be honest, the first two are the only ones I need at this stage. Yeah, I agree. I really like the first two. James says it's the best in the series, but that's not saying much. I find Elm Street a dull franchise. It's not my favorite of the slasher franchises, but it's iconic enough for me to want to buy the new 4Ks that are coming out at the moment. David Doherty says, I voted it third. It's okay. Doesn't age well. Freddy killed Nancy a little too easily for me. Yeah, that's the disappointing thing about this film, is that she just dies without any sort of fight or anything. She just goes over on the floor. Zara says, easily my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay. It's kind of like almost like a version of a Nightmare on Elm Street crossed with the X-Men in some way, isn't it? Everybody's got their own sort of special powers. But like I say, over time, it just, for me, it hasn't aged as well. Okay, let's move on to the next, folks. We got a lot to get through tonight. Let me just press play on this. And The Stepfather. Okay, so The Stepfather's an interesting one. It had 2 or 3 sequels over the years, and then a remake in the sort of early 2000s. Directed by Joseph Ruben, released on January the 23rd, 1987, for a budget of around about $3 million and a box office of only $2.5 million domestically. But I think it was like a huge hit on home entertainment, on video back then. 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, this film has. It is a good film, I have to say that. Terry O'Quinn, Jill Schoelen, Shelley Hack. Jerry Blake is a man who silently murders his first perfect family, changes identity and moves to a suburb where he marries a widow and becomes a stepfather to a teenage daughter. The daughter becomes suspicious of his motives, while the brother of Jerry's previous victims tracks him down, leading to a deadly confrontation. 30 seconds left to vote, folks. The film is loosely inspired by real-life mass murderer John List, who killed his family and evaded capture, though it's heavily fictionalized. Terry O'Quinn's performance is often cited as one of the most chilling, normal person who's scary portrayals in 80s horror. And despite critical praise, 89%, the film performed poorly at the box office, but later achieved cult status. Okay, so vote is over on that one. Oops, pause on there. The Stepfather finishes second. It's in second place with 28% in first place of you voted it in first place. 9 of you voted it in second place. 8 of you voted it in third. 1 in fourth, and 3 in fifth. The Monster Squad vote did start a little early there, but it was only 1 second. So somebody must have hit that button on Monster Squad to put it in second place already. But yeah, 2 or 3 sequels in this. And I think he was in at least one of the sequels, if I remember rightly. If Robert Thitoff is in tonight, he's like a huge Stepfather fan. And yeah, he's been bugging me and Frank for years now to do an episode on this, which we will get round to at some stage. I do like the film. Don Mack says Stepfather 3 is good too. Colin says definitely a solid little movie. Must try and get a copy on Blu-ray or 4K. Haven't seen it in years. Tony Foray says the remake was dog shit. Tony, no comment. I can't say anything on that. Rick says The Stepfather is good, but I think I enjoy the second film even more. CityGal128 says not sure if I even successfully voted. I'm sure you did. 28 of you voted on that one, so it probably registered. And like I always say, folks, if you haven't seen the film, then just abstain. Just don't bother to vote, because then it keeps things as accurate as possible. And I appreciate it if people don't vote if they haven't seen a film. Brandon says, hey, Brandon. He says, I've always loved The Stepfather. I put O'Quinn's performance up there with Isabel Huppert in Possession as one of the best in horror history. Gene Siskel lobbied for him an Oscar nomination. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, that's really weird because, you know, to us in the UK, I think it bypassed theatrical and just went straight to VHS. And so it was one of those that wasn't widely known at the time. I think it was one of those word of mouth things where eventually you picked it up and rented it. But it is a solid little movie. City Gal says, gotta go eat. Bye, guys. So you threw in one vote and went. Thank you, City Gal. Appreciated. Where we got now? Speaking of dog shit, Hand That Rocks the Cradle remake is pure shite. I didn't even know that they'd done one. And then I saw Lee from Drum Dums reviewed it the other day. And I watched the review, and I don't think it was too favourable from what I remember. Let's have a straight to VHS in the UK. That's right. Awesome 50. No cinema release in the UK. Yeah, absolutely. I remember. Okay, let's kick off the vote again, and it is the Monster Squad. 88 seconds left to vote, folks. Released on August the 14th, 1987. I can feel Barry bashing that red button right now, wanting this to be in the top tier. We actually had a conversation about this the other day, and he said, look, you know, he said, I know there's not enough fans out there, or there's not enough people who love it that much for it to get into the running for the final. But we'll see. We'll see, Barry. I'm a huge fan of the Monster Squad, and I was late to it as well. I kind of I don't honestly remember if I saw it when it first came out, but I have seen it plenty of times over the last 10 years or whatever. But I can't believe I missed this when it first came around. I think I must have seen it and maybe didn't remember it or something like that. But yeah, August the 14th, 1987, a budget of around about 14 million. Fred Decker obviously directing, who did Night of the Creeps. A box office around 3.8 million domestically, which was kind of a bit of a disappointment. Well, a huge disappointment. Andre Gower, Robbie Kiger, Stephen Macht, Del Crenshaw, Duncan Rager, and Tom Noonan all starred in the movie. 10 seconds left to vote, folks. It's winning tier 2 at the moment. 4, 3, 2, 1, and the voting's paused. Okay, so a group of kids who idolize classic monsters, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Gillman, and Wolfman, discover that the monsters have re-emerged in their hometown to take over the world. The kids form the Monster Squad to stop them using Van Helsing's diary and an amulet of good. Despite the fairly large budget for an 80s kids-friendly horror film, the movie underperformed at the box office, only earning 3.8 million. The film mixes nostalgia for Universal monsters with 80s adventure and horror flavors, making it a cult favorite years later. Filming included night shoots and special effects by Richard Edlund's Boss Films team. And the marketing tagline, you know who to call when you have ghosts, but who do you call when you have monsters, highlights its tongue-in-cheek tone. Although it failed commercially, initially the film's home video and brand resurgence, anniversary editions, Blu-rays, etc. have given it new life among horror fans, and also a YouTube channel called Wolfman's Got Nards. Barry says, broke my finger pressing that red button. What can I say that I haven't already? Legendary movie. Appreciate you adding it in. It was always going to be in here, Barry. Always going to be in here. But it's second place at the moment. Who knows? It may well stay in second place throughout the whole evening. So 7 of you voted it in first place, 12 of you in second, 4 of you in third, 1 of you in fourth, and 4 of you voted it in 5th place. Wow. Okay. Paul says, put Monster Squad second tier, a fun enough watch, but too campy for me. Decker is good, but they changed the creature designs, so blasphemy. I guess they had to do, though, right? I guess they had to change them somewhat. Monster Squad is great fun, very underrated. Colin says, Barry, I'm going to order you a copy this week. I promise you I would finally watch it. I'll save it for Halloween night. It'll be nice to see something I haven't seen before. You'll enjoy it, Colin. You really enjoy it. It'll just take you back to... You and I are the same age. It'll take you back to that time. It's a great watch. And then Wolfman's Got Nards. Barry says, Colin, I hope you like it, my man. Okay, let's go. Let's start this this next vote, which is The Lost Boys. There we go. So, July the 31st, 1987, a budget of 8.5 million. Only 32.2 million at the domestic box office, but I would imagine it's gone on to rake in a ton more with everything about this film. The soundtrack album, the DVDs, the Blu-rays, the 4Ks. everything. I mean, it's just such a huge, iconic 80s property now, isn't it? Rotten Tomatoes score 75%, directed by Joel Schumacher, Corey Haim, Jason Patrick, Kiefer Sutherland, Corey Heldman, Jamie Gertz, and Diane Weist. The Emerson family moves to Santa Carla, California, where one brother falls in with a gang of attractive vampires led by David. His younger brother and local comic nerd friends attempt to save him and uncover the undead secret beneath the seaside town's surface. 30 seconds left, folks. The title is a nod to J.M. Barrie's The Lost Boys of Peter Pan, the idea of young men who never grew up. It's a combination of teen angst, vampire horror, and 80s aesthetic. I'm just seeing where it's placed at the moment. Surfboards, punk style, made it a cult classic beyond just horror fans. 10 seconds left, folks, to vote for the I was going to say the Water Boys then. Jesus, that's another thing entirely. The Lost Boys. There we go. Voting is over. And The Lost Boys is clearly in number one at the moment, with 63% of you voting it in first place, 11% of you voting it in second, 11% of you voting it in third, 8% in third, and 8% in fifth. So let's see how that compares at the moment to A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So, yeah, 2 more of you voted it in first place than Elm Street 3. Okay, so what's going to trouble the Lost Boys here? And Elm Street 3, of course. Hellraiser, maybe? Evil Dead 2? Creepshow 2? Bad Taste? There's quite a few in there to go. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I have a feeling Lost Boys will be in the final 2, though. Still a brilliant watch to this day, says Paul. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Ooh, you wait until I tell Mom. Great line. Cheney, is that Deshaun? Hey, good to see you, buddy. Says, hey, Darren. Which will be ranked higher, Lost Boys or Near Dark? Yeah, we've still got Near Dark to come as well. Echoes of the Unknown says, always remember I borrowed the Lost Boys as a kid from a mate, but the last 10 minutes were taped over by an episode of Emmerdale. Could have been worse. Could have been worse. If Lost Boys beats Near Dark, I might give up on humanity, says Awesome50. Now, the only thing is there that a lot more people have seen The Lost Boys than Near Dark. Near Dark's actually really quite difficult to get hold of because I don't believe they've done, well, they certainly haven't done a UK Blu-ray or I think you can get it on Blu-ray from like Europe somewhere, but it's one of those movies that's crying out for a reissue, for a proper 4K version, a bells and whistles number, and you just can't get one at all. Maybe there's problems with them locating the negs or something, I don't know, but yeah, it's a tough one to get hold of. It's not as readily available as you think. Okay, let's kick off the next vote, and it is The Hidden. Okay, those of you that have seen Jason Goes to Hell, there are similar themes in that movie to The Hidden. In fact, I always think that the guy who wrote Jason Goes to Hell must have seen The Hidden and thought it was a great idea. The kind of body swap thing with the thing going down people's throats and all that kind of taking over people's bodies. The Hidden's good fun. I really enjoyed it. Carl McLachlan. I don't think it was released in the cinema in the UK. I would have to look at that. I don't recall it, but I do remember seeing it on VHS. Released on October the 30th, 1987, with a budget of approximately $5 million. Took nothing at the cinemas, $9 million or something like that. Jack Shoulder directed it, who also directed Elm Street 2. Carl McLachlan, Michael Nouri, homicide detective Nouri, and an FBI agent McLachlan pursue a mysterious alien life form capable of repeatedly possessing human hosts. As the body count rises, they uncover that the alien has been using Earth as its playground of chaos. Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on the clock there. 15 seconds left. Made for around $5 million. It still grossed nearly double that, making it a modest hit for its time. Well, if you take the marketing and the rental out of it, it's probably not going to be much of a hit. But 2-1. Vote is over, folks. The vote is over on The Hidden, and it finishes in third place. 2 of you voted it in first place. 4 of you in second. 12 of you in third, and 2 of you in fifth. 1 second. The Hidden, yeah, if you get a chance to check it out, it's worth a look. It really is. The film blends sci-fi, horror, and action in a way that was ahead of its time. It kind of came out amongst that time where there was a lot of sort of sci-fi, horror, or thriller movies. We had, do you remember the James Caan one with Mandy Patinkin? Alien Nation, that was it. It's kind of a similar vibe to that, I guess. Though not, what else have we got? Though not a massive blockbuster, its strong home video and cult following helped raise its status over time. It was one of the more ambitious titles from the then independent studio New Line Cinema in the late 1980s, and the film opens with one of the more shocking mass possession jump scenes in 80s genre cinema, and is often praised for its pacing and inventiveness despite budget constraints. It's kind of one of those that I'd like to see, a special edition of come out at some point. Don Mack says The Hidden was a black. You saw it in the theater. That's cool. Excellent. Tony Foray says, I remember seeing it, but can't remember enough to vote. The Hidden was awesome. I remember this being a great video rental for me. Second tier for me, says Muckman. Thank you, buddy. And shocking that both Friday the 13th 4 and The Lost Boys, both with Corey Feldman, beat Freddy Krueger. That's just the way it goes. We have such a really broad mix of people in here. So, you get surprised with this from time to time. I remember the UK VHS cover, The Hidden well. Yeah, it's different to the picture that we've got there on the screen. The UK VHS was a kind of a white background with a guy lying on the floor with like a beam of light going into his mouth or something, if I remember rightly. I remember it being mid, says Paul. Like a lot of stuff, I should give it another go. Us movie fans really need to be immortal to keep up. You do, there's so much out there. What else have we got? Daz, tip your waitress. Okay. Oh, Daz in the chat. Right. Okay, let's move on to the next vote, and it is The Gate. The Gate was another one in the same vein as the likes of Monster Squad that I probably came to late and watched for an episode for Johnny and Steph recently, and really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the effects in it, all the kind of practical stuff, the stop motion stuff. It just kind of, really sort of conjured up memories of that sort of Amblin era. I know it isn't Amblin, but it had that feel, that kind of Night of the Creeps feel, that Monster Squad feel, that Return of the Living Dead Part 2 feel, that sort of 80s US suburbia being taken over by aliens or monsters or whatever you want to call them. Released on May the 15th, 1987, a budget of $2.5 million, a box office of $13.5 million. Stephen Dorff stars in this one, along with Lewis Tripp. When a tree is removed from the backyard of Glenn's house while his parents are away, Glenn and his older sister, Al, discover a large hole in the ground. Glenn's friend Terry realizes the hole is a gateway to hell, and a horde of demonic creatures begin to emerge and threaten the household. 10 seconds left to vote on this one, folks. Johnny's there. He says, I love The Gate. I know you do, buddy. That episode I really enjoyed doing. 2 seconds left. There we go. Vote is over on The Gate. And it's unfortunately is in last position at the moment, Johnny. It's second on the third tier. I'm sure it won't remain there, because there are titles that are coming up which will sink into fourth and fifth tier. I'm quite sure of it. But 3 of you voted it in first place, 8 of you in second, 11 of you voted it in third, and 2 of you voted it in fifth. Zara says she's adding quite a few films to her watch list here. Yeah, you got a bit of catching up to do, Zara. Let me have a look. The Gate, so many great memories of renting this multiple times, says Awesome50. Loved the UK video cover. Yeah, I couldn't find it to put on here, but it's kind of similar-ish to the one that's on the screen there. But I guess the one that's on the screen there is really white, whereas the UK one, I think, was really dark. Count says, I know I've seen The Gate and I own it on Blue, but can't remember a thing, so can't vote. You should watch it, buddy. Honestly, that Blu-ray is really good. It's got some great stuff on it. Speaking of Feldman, says Kingslayer, is The Burbs a horror movie for 89? Ooh, good question. That's a good question. Because it is pretty dark, isn't it? Colin says, absolutely love The Gate. Great little gateway horror movie for youngsters. Bought it last year as I hadn't seen it since the 80s and love it. And a young Kristen from the OC says Barry is in The Gate. And of course, Stephen Dorff. Yeah, Stephen Dorff looks kind of a bit odd in this film. He looks like he's been squashed. Like, you know, he grew up to be quite a handsome bloke, but in this, he's kind of an odd-looking little kid. Power Packer says, never seen this. And Brandon says, Stephen Dorff was a 40-year-old child from the start. Okay, let's kick off the vote for the next one. Stage Fright. How many of you have seen Stage Fright? This is an interesting one. I quite like Stage Fright. I think it was Italian. I'm pretty sure it was Italian. Released on July the 27th, 1987 for a budget of around about $1 million. A critic score of 90% on Rotten Tomatoes with an audience score of 59%. Michele Soavi directed it. Barbara Capisti, David Brandon, Giovanni Lombardo. A group of stage actors are locked in a theatre for a rehearsal of their musical, unaware that an escaped psychopath has sneakily infiltrated the building and begins a murderous spree. Yeah, famously the slasher in this film wears like a big owl head, as you can see on the picture there. The film is Italian, called either Deliria or Aquarius in other territories, and combines slosher, yeah, that slasher and horror. That's slosher. That's slasher and horror. That's great. I've created my own new genre, with theatrical setting breathing new life into the genre. Director Michele Soavi was a protege of Dario Argento, and the film showcases his emerging stylish horror flair. 4 seconds left, folks. 2, 1, 0. There we go. Vote is over. Despite its modest budget, less than $1 million, it achieved strong critic scores and is now considered a cult classic. The film uses theatrical and meta-theatrical elements, actors rehearsing a show, killer in the theatre, etc., which stands out in the slasher field. Its alternate titles, Deliria and Aquarius, have caused some confusion among fans and collectors, boosting its hidden gem status. Yeah, people are ordering multiple copies. Zara says, God, they were really running out of ideas for iconic slasher looks. Darren isn't sloshed, I'll have you know. But I do like the fact that I've invented a new subgenre. I love when the killer looks through the window. Yes, I always remember them kind of like somebody falling through a trapdoor, and when they're trying to pull the guy up through the trapdoor and that person gets chainsawed in half and they just pull up like half a body. I always remember that moment. Barry says, agreed, Count. Italian slasher giallo are my least favorite subgenre. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Just arrived. I got distracted and forgot. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Why? What were you doing? Wordy word. Is a slosher a drunk mosher? Could be. And Dave Vanderhoff says, what's up, Darren? Happy spooky season. I love Stage Fright. Yeah, that's a few fans here. 4 of you voted it in first place, 7 in second, 8 of you in third, 1 of you in fourth, and 2 in fifth. And it finishes third in third. Third on the third tier, which means it's currently last, but it won't stay last. Guarantee you there is stuff coming up, whereas it will be, yeah. It will finish middling, I'm quite sure. Okay, let's kick off the next vote. Oh, here we go. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Garbage day. Garbage film. April the 10th, 1987 was this the release date for this movie. A budget of just 100,000. Please don't tell me this is in the top tier here. Box office, the exact domestic gross figure cannot be found. It wasn't clearly documented, but listed as part of the series with low revenue. There's no Rotten Tomatoes score. Directed by Lee Harry. The brother of the killer from Silent Night, Deadly Night deals with the trauma of his parents' Christmas Eve murders and begins his own killing spree. Made cheaply for around about 100,000 compared to most theatrical releases. It's a sequel to one of the more controversial slasher films of the 80s. Despite its low cost, the film gained a reputation for being bizarre and excessive, especially the infamous we're having a nightmare scene. The film spawned further sequels. I think there were another 3 after this, and then 2 remakes. Though none returned to the theatre after this release. Because its budget was so low, the production values are often mocked, but this has also bolstered its cult appeal. 5 seconds left, folks. And the vote is over. The vote is over on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. 3 of you voted it in the top tier, 1 of you in second, 4 of you in third, 2 of you in fourth, and 1 of you in fifth. Only 10 of you voted on that. That's amazing. I thought more people would have seen Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. I'm just going to put the link for the vote in the chat again. Silent Shite, Deadly Shite 2, says Colin. Never again. What a disgrace to Linear's finest assets. Just stick with one. Garbage Day describes it well. Yeah, I'm surprised that, it's finished 4th on the 3rd tier, last, I guess, overall, but I'm surprised that it's not lower than the 3rd tier. I guess a lot of people abstained. A lot of people won't have seen this. There's a lot of British people I know in the chat here, and this film was never released in the UK until, I don't know. I don't even know if it's on release in the UK now. I'm sure it would be. 88 Films must have done something with this. But the original Silent Night, Deadly Night was a long time before it was released in the UK, like in the 2000s at some point. Movie Chat and More sends in a super chat. Says, did you give Dave the kick up the arse? Did I give him the kick up the arse? Why would I do that? Thank you for the super chat, though. Dave and I had a great weekend. It was good fun. It was good fun introducing him to the north of England. Tony Randall says, reminds me of watching Ernest Saves Christmas and that scene with Santa Claus. Yeah, I know what you mean. Tony Four Eye says 3 out of 10 voted top tier. What the fuck? Yeah, unfortunately, it does have cult fan status, but then there might be 1 or 2 people in here who are just messing around and wanted to vote it because they haven't seen it. Wordy Word says, Darren, are you coming to the Weekend of the Dead in Manchester next weekend? It's a great lineup with it being 40th anniversary of Day. I know. You know what? I was looking at it today and sort of thinking, is there any way I can make this work? But I don't think so. I don't think so. I'd like to. I think it's one of the last ones they're going to do as well, isn't it? It's every year I say, maybe I should. It's just too close to For the Love of Horror for me. So, yeah, it's probably won't. I may go to the one in London. There's a con in London in the lead up to Christmas, which is really easy for me to get to. So I may well go to that. Awesome50 said 101 Films did release this in the UK on Blu-ray. Oh, they did. Okay, fair enough. That's good to know. And Kingslayer says Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is a masterpiece of cinema. Okay, I'm going to kick off the next vote. And we have Prince of Darkness. Oh, a great film that if you've only seen it once a long time ago, deserves a rewatch because it really does stand the test of time, I think, this film. Very unsettling movie. The anniversary for this was actually like yesterday or something, I believe. I've got 2 release dates on here, October the 21st and October the 23rd. So I'm guessing it premiered on the 21st and was released on the 23rd. So this movie is 38 years old today, pretty much. Budget of 3 million, 14.8 million. John Carpenter directed this film. Donald Pleasance, Victor Wong, Jameson Parker, Lisa Blount. A mysterious cylinder is discovered in the basement of a church that may contain the essence of Satan. A group of scientists and students become trapped as supernatural forces emerge. Liquid Satan, folks. How many other films can you say are based around liquid Satan? I love this film. I think it really, like I said, it really does stand the test of time. 20 seconds left to vote. The film is considered the second part of Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy after The Thing and before In the Mouth of Madness. I don't know who created that Apocalypse trilogy nonsense. I think it's just a fan-made thing, but anyway. 1 second left. There we go. The vote is over on Prince of Darkness. And it finishes third. I'm really pleased with that. I'm so pleased with that. 19 of you voted it in first place. 12 of you in second, 2 in third, and 3 of you in fifth. Why are people voting this? This is a great movie. Brandon says, this is Carpenter's most underrated and misunderstood film. Saw this in the cinemas when I was 9 and it went over my head. Saw it years later and fell in love with it. I agree with you. I think when I first saw it, I would have been, 14 or something like that. I saw it on VHS. Because you've got in your head The Thing, you've got Halloween and Escape from New York and, Assault on Precinct 13. It was a departure for him. But it's bloody good. It really is bloody good and really deserves a rewatch if you haven't seen it since it first came out. Johnny says, still got the X rental VHS. Yeah, Guild, was it? Did Guild do this, Johnny? I think they did. Fucking love Prince of Darkness, says Alpact14. And Prince of Darkness is top tier Carpenter for me, says Stephen Flanagan. Never liked Prince of Darkness in 87, says Tony Four Eyes, but absolutely love it now. The dream scene coming out the door still shits me up. It's all really creepy. There's that bit when that guy is communicating to them through the window. He stood outside and he's just kind of like dropping to bits in front of your eyes. It's superb stuff. Paul says top tier and one of John's last few good movies. Not classic level, but very, very good. Yeah, honestly, if you haven't seen this movie, check it out. Check it out. Awesome 50 says such a shame it didn't beat out Lost Boys. Love this movie, says Power Packers. Echoes of the Unknown says I think Pleasance often liked a few jars of Liquid Satan. I'm sure he did. And Prince of Darkness is better than Christine and They Live, in my opinion. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'd have to think about that, but yeah. I pretend Prince of Darkness is set on Halloween as a continuation of the Halloween franchise anthology concept. Okay, that's not a bad idea. It was Guild, yes. Sold it recently. Oh, okay. I watch Prince of Darkness a couple of times a year, says Duke. You know what? I feel like I should watch it this weekend. I have the 4K over there. I may as well give it another spin this weekend. I have a message for you and you're not going to like it. Yes, that's the moment, Paul, I think. Okay, let's kick off the next vote. What are we looking at? Predator. You guys wanted it in here. Let's see what you think about it. It's gone straight to 4th place in the first tier. I'm going to take my eyes off it for a few minutes while I read out a few facts, but I expect this to crawl up. Release date June the 12th, 1987. A budget of between 15 and 18 million. Only 15 to 18 million. Critic score of 80%. It took around about 98.3 at the US box office 38 years ago. That's amazing. John McTiernan directed it. Obviously went on to do Die Hard after this and Hunt for Red October and lots of other good stuff. Die Hard 3. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, Bill Duke. Who else was in it? Who's the guy that I forgot? The guy that wrote Lethal Weapon. He was in it as well, wasn't he? An elite rescue paramilitary team is sent to a Central American jungle and are hunted by a technologically advanced alien warrior. 22 seconds left to vote, folks. The monster designed by Stan Winston included invisibility and thermal vision effects achieved via clever optical color techniques. Principal photography was in Mexico between March and June of 1986 with difficult terrain and conditions, jungle, heat, mud, all that kind of stuff. 2 seconds left, folks. Oh, in the very last second. That was amazing. It was in 3rd place, and in the last second, it jumped to 2nd. Predator has beaten out Elm Street 3. That was like, you know, when you're on eBay and you're waiting for that last bid. That was someone sniped it. That's what they did. Sniped that second position. Terrific stuff. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. And if you haven't seen the pictures online, you should look at it. I mean, most people know about this now, but the Predator was originally played by Jean-Claude Van Damme. And if you go rooting at Shane Black, thank you, Barry. If you go online and just Google Jean-Claude Van Damme Predator, you can see some really cool pictures of the original sort of iteration of the Predator with Van Damme's face and this kind of prosthetic on his head. And yeah, it was interesting. And then obviously it didn't work, and they got the big guy, I can't remember his name, in to play the Predator. He's dead now. Forgot his name. How stupid of me. I should have written that down. And we get that iconic creature, which still looks absolutely amazing and terrifying even now, 38 years later. Okay, what people saying? Get to the chopper. Running Man is better than Predator. I said what I said. Okay, Brandon, fair enough. Are you looking forward to the remake of Running Man? Voted 5th because it's not a horror film. No, that's not what we're doing here. If you you're telling me that the film's shit if you voted it 5th. Come on, Muckman. Come on. We need you to abstain if you don't agree that it should be in here. Ain't got time to bleed, says Tony Randall. Predator isn't horror, says Kingslayer. Look, we had a vote on this. There was a democratic situation that went on. 80% of the vote went in favor of Predator being in this show. So, you know, I have to kind of go with that. I'm not sure I fully agree with it, but in the same way with the Aliens and Terminator, I'm not sure I fully agree. But the votes have been the same on those 3 movies. People think that you know, there's enough horror elements in those movies for it to be classed as a horror. Predator is a brilliant slasher film that thinks it's an action film. There you go. Shane Black, thank you, Brandon. Oh geez, here we go. Predator, a great action movie, but voted it down as it's not horror for me. You can't. No, that's not how we play it. Just abstain. A monster is stalking and killing people one by one. There is some legit gore. It may not be scary to most people, but most horror movies aren't scary either, says Tony Randall. And Duke Fleet says, I didn't vote for Predator to be on the list, but it still deserves top tier. Thank you. That's the way we play, Duke. That's the way we play. Top tier all day, says Paul. A great movie, classic creature. I really wish they'd stop messing with the design. And yes, I still have a life-size Predator. Good, I remember that in your house. Right alongside the life-size alien. Predator, Running Man from the same year. Preferred Running Man from the same year, says James. And Predator, a horror movie? Are you on PCP? Get to the PCP. Yes, Shane Black wrote it as he did the Monster Squad. Are you on PCP? It's an action movie for the first act, horror for the rest of the movie. Look at all this debate about, yeah. Wordy Word says, sends in £5 and says, enjoy. Thank you, buddy. That's really kind of you. We really appreciate that. Thank you that you reminded me of the name there. 7 foot Kevin Peter Hall played the Predator. Didn't he play the Alien as well, if I remember right? Predator, more horror than Elm Street. The world has gone mad. Kevin Peter Hall. Yep. We're probably getting Aliens versus Predator in the finale. We could well be. The Running Man remake trailer looks interesting, but a totally different animal to the Arnold film. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, until I got an invite to go to the premiere a week on Wednesday, but I've got an injury at the moment, so I'm not sure I can sit in a cinema for that amount of time. I can sit here because I can deal with my injury while I'm doing a live stream. But in the cinema, it's going to be pretty difficult. But I'm going to see if I'm well enough. I'm going to go and see that premiere because I really did like the trailer. Isn't it crazy? I've never seen the whole movie of Predator in all these years. Really, Dave? Oh wow. You should. You need to get on that. Hey, Matt, good to see you. Matt introduced himself up in Manchester on Saturday and said hello to me, Barry, and Dave. It was good to meet you, mate. Really appreciated you coming over and saying hello. And you know, you've been a big supporter of this channel for a long time, so it was great to finally meet you. And TSL, sorry, Matt, as well. Don Mac says, I think some people are voting it down so it doesn't end up in the first two and moves on. Well, it's got into the first two. It's got into the first two. Let me just have a look at where it... how many of you actually... 23 of you voted it in first place, 4 in second, 6 in third, 2 in fourth, and 7 of you in fifth. Now, if those 7 of you that voted it in fifth vote on what you actually thought about the movie rather than whether it was a horror film or not, this probably would have won by a country mile, I think. Play fair. Darren wounded on an MI6 mission. I was wounded running for a train on a staircase. Can't sit due to an injury. Dare we ask? No, I've just done some damage to my ligaments in my knee. That's all. So I'm just kind of strapped up at the moment. I need to extend my leg, which I can't do in a cinema, especially not in the IMAX cinema, because those IMAX chairs, they don't leave you any leg room at all. So we'll see anyway. We'll see. If I feel up to it, I'll definitely be going. Matt says, Darren, it's great to meet you all too. No, it was. It was really cool. Really cool. Okay, and Muckman's laughing. Yeah, Muckman, come on, man. Come on. Right. Okay, let's get this next vote. We're voting on Opera. Argento's Opera. Released on December the 19th, 1987 in Italy. So it is probably didn't make it into our shores until 88. But it did come out in Italy in 1987. A budget of 8 million on an Italian giallo picture? Wow. 4.737 billion at the box office. Lira. 90% critic score. As I said, directed by Argento. Cristina Marcellak, Urbano Barberini, Ian Charlson, Dario Nicoladi again. A young soprano is chosen to replace a prima donna in a production of Verdi's Macbeth. After she begins being stalked by a masked assailant in the opera house, she must watch while murders unfold around her and face a terrifying truth about the killer's identity. Yeah, some pretty nasty moments in this film. Argento's most expensive film to date, and it was shot in Italy and Switzerland. 25 seconds left to vote, folks. The film uses heavy metal and rock-influenced music, Brian Eno, Bill Wyman, in a classical opera setting, a distinctive stylistic choice. The production included a scene from the Raven's POV around the theatre, which alone cost 1 billion lira. 5 seconds left to vote on this, folks. 3, 2, 1, 0. And we're on the first tier. That's cool. 9 of you voted it in the first tier, 6 in second, 4 in third, 1 in fourth, and 1 in fifth. Only 21 of you voted on that one. Zara says she loves opera. He had a fall. I'm not that old. I fell. In another 10 years, I would have had a fall. Running for a train on His Majesty's Secret Service. Opera started, says Don Mac 3000. Wolfman's got none, says I refuse. What, to vote for opera? Okay. Abstaining from voting, says Goliath. Love the scene with the bullet being fired through the keyhole. Yep. Was that this? Was it? Was that Tenebrae? No. Yeah. I'm getting confused now. Hang on a minute. Yeah. I think it was. Yes. Saw opera when I was a big Argento fan. Probably Argento films blending into one here. Saw opera when I was a big Argento fan. Probably his last really good movie. I think it is. I remember nothing. Probably for the best. Like I say, the Italian stuff is not up my alley. Oh, you should take another look at them. They're honestly, I didn't like them when I was younger, and then. It's only years later when I've rewatched them that I've come to really appreciate the production values of these films and the inventiveness of them. There's some really, really cool stuff. Please read more Italian names. Opera kind of bored me, says James. After all the hype, I was underwhelmed. Nothing tops Tenebrae. And Argento clearly read Red Dragon to get that ending. I'm trying to think what the ending was now. I'd have to go back and have a look. Opera is the last Argento movie I recommend to people. Haven't seen this, says Adam. Suspiria is my favorite Argento film, says Muckman. Top tier for me, love it, says Colin. The only thing Italian I really love is Ornella Muti and Meatballa, right? And still made it in the top two despite people's top tier, I think. Top tier despite people's displeasure. Yeah, final place on the last tier, on the first tier. Pretty good, pretty good. There's some good stuff this year. Look, I mean, everything's in the top 3 tiers at the moment. Let's see what the next one does. Near Dark. Oh, wow. Okay. Catherine Bigelow directed this film. She has a movie hitting Netflix tomorrow, the one about the nuclear bomb that's launched on the US, which I really want to see. I forget the title of it now. Idris Elba. Adrian Pasdar, Jenny Wright, Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen. A young man from Oklahoma falls in with a nomadic vampire family of bikers and criminals. As he seeks escape and redemption, he experiences a violent struggle between human morality and supernatural horror in a neo-Western setting. Okay, we're in the top tier with this at the moment, in 5th place. Catherine Bigelow's daring blend of vampire horror and Western motifs stands out in the era. Despite strong critical reviews, it failed commercially because it opened soon after a major vampire film with bigger studio backing, which I'm presuming is The Lost Boys. A budget of $5 million was modest but riskier than many independent horror films of the time. The film's opening weekend was only $635,000 on 262 screens, but over time it has become a cult classic among both horror fans and fans of Bigelow's directorial work. And the vote is up. Near Dark finishes 5th on the first tier. Interesting. Oh, hang on a minute. The Jaws vote started. Let me just get rid of that for a second. Yeah, 17 of you voted it in first place, 3 in second, 2 in third, 2 in fourth, and nobody voted it in fifth. Let me just put the link in the chat here. Just make sure everybody can see that. 77 of you watching at the moment, folks. Thank you so much for joining. Near Dark top tier, says Goliath. Wraith UK says, not sure why I always found Near Dark pretty dull. Watch it again. It's honestly, I saw it when it came out in the 80s and watched it again a few years ago when Frank and I did an episode, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was terrific. Near Dark is excellent, says Adam. Never seen this, but I have it. Tried to watch with a girlfriend, but we decided to do something else. Okay. I'll not ask. Top place in top tier for me, says Muckman. Catherine Bigelow directs the hell out of Near Dark. Bill Paxton is incredible in this. Tony Randall says, yes, Ray, definitely watch. Near Dark top tier, says Stephen. Brandon's talking to Zara there. Lost Boys beats Near Dark here. It does. It does. Lost Boys is still first. Have you not seen Near Dark, Zara? Seriously, you'll love it. It's terrific. Has to be top tier. Great director, great cast at their peak. Was she at a peak? I mean, the cast were at a peak. I think she kind of went on to even bigger and better things and still is doing. Genuinely unsettling, made me hate Bill Paxton's character. Not easy, as he was a very likable guy usually. Yeah, there's some great moments. Some of those bar scenes are just terrific in this film. Tony Four says Jaws 4 ain't staying in the top tier. Yeah, the vote started a little early on that one. Let's start it now. Let's see what happens with Jaws 4. There we go. Right, the vote on Jaws 4 has started. And this, I just bowed to some pressure here because A number of people were messaging me privately and saying, you should have Jaws in here. You had so-and-so in here the other week. Why doesn't Jaws 4 qualify? Jaws 4 was not going to be in here initially because I don't see this. I see the first one as more of a horror film than this, but this one, nah. 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. An audience score of 15%. Directed by Joseph Sargent, who I also think directed Pelham, Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Lorraine Gary, Michael Caine, Lance Guest, Mario Van Peebles. Widowed Ellen Brody becomes convinced a great white shark is targeting her family for revenge. After her youngest son is killed, she travels to the Bahamas to visit her other son, only to find the shark has followed them, leading to a final showdown. I'm just glancing at where it's at the moment. It's the fourth and final film in the Jaws franchise, and it retroactively ignores the events of the third film. 6 seconds left to vote, folks. 3, 2, 1, 0. There we go. Despite a fairly large budget for a shark movie sequel, $23 million, it recouped only modestly and is the lowest grossing film of the franchise. Its tomatometer score of 2% puts it widely regarded as one of the worst major horror thriller sequels ever made. In the movie, the shark is inexplicably given near supernatural motivations, revenge on the Brody family, and even roars at one point. A detail frequently mocked. Michael Caine later quipped to the production, I've never seen the movie, but I have seen the house it paid for. A sharp dig at the film's quality and production value. And if you remember, he won an Oscar for, was it Hannah and Her Sisters? I think that was the film. And he couldn't collect it because he was in the Bahamas on the week-long shoot or whatever it was for Jaws the Revenge. Shamrock's going to correct me on it, I'm sure. Was it a week that he did on this film, Shamrock? It was something like that, and it kind of spoiled his Oscar collection duties that he was due to do. Paul says Joseph Sargent did this to give his wife a leading role again. He shouldn't have really. Joseph Sargent? No, it wasn't Joseph Sargent. It was the head of Universal, who was married to Lorraine Gary, who I forget his name now. The head of Universal at the time. He was married to Lorraine Gary, so that's what it was. It wasn't the director she was married to. The shark in Jaws 4 sounds like a tiger roar. Yes, the TSL best and worst was definitely told. Yeah, that was a good episode we did. The Richard Jenny roast of Jaws 4 is hilarious. Never seen that. And the shark roars. So who does Michael in Resurrection, who Busta Rhymes says is a killer shark? Oh, right. Okay, that's interesting. Darren, I think, well, they were shooting. Yeah, Darren, I think they were doing reshoots at Universal Studios when the Oscars were on. Okay, cool. Sid Sheinberg, thank you very much, Shamrock. That was the head of Universal. She was married to him. Yeah. Seen Jaws 4 in the cinema. Even then, as a 13-year-old, I found it to be a pile of steaming horse muck. Pure cack. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the other day, actually, whether I saw this in the cinema, and I can't remember. There's no reason why I wouldn't have done, other than it being dreadful and everybody knowing it was dreadful. But I seem to think I watched it on VHS. I don't recall going to the cinema to see it. I probably did, but yeah. Arnold films seem controversial, so if Terminator and Predator are horror movies, is Jingle All the Way an action movie? People won't let it lie, will they? Okay, let's kick off this next vote. What have we got? House 2. This was the first 15 rated movie that was I legal? No, I wasn't. The first 15 rated movie that I went to see, I think. I'm pretty sure it was. And then I figured out I could sneak into other auditoriums and pay for a ticket for batteries not included and go and watch RoboCop or something like that. But I do remember actually going and buying a ticket for House 2, being underage and getting in. So it was a big deal. And Not sure, House 2's that good, to be honest. I know Barry's a fan. I think Barry's a big fan of House 2. Okay, what we got to say about House 2? Released on August the 28th, 1987. A budget of $3 million, $7.8 million at the box office, although some cite it as making $10 million. The critics' score is 8%. That's all, just 8%. Directed by Ethan Wiley, starring Air Gross, Jonathan Stark, Royal Dano, John Ratzenberger. Yuppie Jesse McLaughlin inherits an old mansion where he and his friends uncover a family crystal skull that opens portals through time. They encounter prehistoric Aztec and Old West adventures, reviving Jesse's ancestor Gramps along the way. Okay, 2 seconds left to vote on House 2. Vote is up. So 1 sec vote. My ear is... There we go. Barry. Barry says House 2 is top tier. That's just a fact. You need to revisit the first one. You know, we did an episode on Return of the Living Dead 2 the other week, Barry. Sorry, Return of the Living Dead. And you said growing up you thought Return of the Living Dead 2 was a better movie, but you've reevaluated Return of the Living Dead and you find it better than the second one now. I think if you go back and watch House, the original House, you'll prefer it to House 2. House 2's not very good. House 1, I remember it at the time getting slated by reviewers and that. But House 2 is, nah. House 2 is another fun enough film with some okay creature effects, but no comparison to the first, says Paul. Jason says, I know I'm early, however, I believe The Stepfather is one of the greatest films ever made. Terry O'Quinn was one of the best psychopaths ever brought to screen. Yes. I do need to revisit The Stepfather again. It is a great film. That's quite a hot take, I think. One of the greatest psychopaths ever brought to screen. I might watch The Stepfather again soon and just revisit it, see if it is as good as I remember and as everybody remembers. 1987 was the year I saw my first 18 certificate film at the cinema on my own. At 15 years old, I managed to get into Full Metal Jacket. Awesome 50. Later that year, after seeing House 2, I saw both RoboCop after buying a ticket for Batteries Not Included, and I saw Predator after buying a ticket for something else as well. I can't remember. Just took a left down at the bottom of the corridor instead of a right and ended up in the wrong film. But never at 14 or whatever I was, 14 or 15, I didn't legally buy an 18 rated movie ticket until 91 or something like that. I was already working in a cinema with 18 rated movies before I was legally old enough to actually buy a ticket. In fact, I worked in projection, and they were at the time when I started, for the first month or so, they were actually showing adult films in there. They had one screen which was showing adult films. And I was 16 working in the projection room. So I had to have a letter from my mum and dad to say that they agreed to me working with over 18 content. Those films didn't last long. Paul will remember them playing down there. They were all, sort of Finnish films with, people in miniskirts running around, Alpine Swiss films maybe, or something like that. They were all very weird, and then they would end with a big yellow screen at the end that just said Finn in big letters at the end. But yeah, there was they were interesting to project. I'm not sure where this is going, but House 2, where did it finish? It finished first in the third tier. 4 of you voted it in the first tier, 2 of you in second, 15 in third, 4 in fourth, and 2 in fifth. 27 votes overall. Middling. Not bad. I think that's quite high for House 2, personally. I'm not a fan. Did your mum and dad write the letter, or did you? No. My dad was a cop, so he was very kind of straightforward with things like that. So he wrote a letter confirming that your projection room must have been a mess. I'll tell you a story. So I used to, and Paul knows this guy. Well, this guy's dead now. He must have been dead for years. I would have thought he was like 72 when I was there. So this would have been 89 when I first started working in this projection room. And I would know every day when I would come into the projection room which projector was projecting the filthy film. And I didn't have to look at the title of the film on the reel or anything like that. All I had to do was see which projector had a pile of fag ash on the floor. Cigarette ash, for those of you that are in America. If there was cigarette ash on the floor, I knew that was the porn film, because he would stand there all day watching it through the porthole, through the window. So, yeah, that was my way of identifying which projector was showing the adult movie at that particular time of the day. Les, they called him, little Les. He was this kind of like 72-year-old guy who just smoked like a chimney. He was about 4'9" or something like that, and he would talk to me. He sounded like a Jack Russell when he spoke. He would just like kind of just spit all over you when he spoke. He must have been long dead. I mean, how long ago was that? That's 36 years ago. Yeah, he would be well into his he'd be 110 now if he was still alive, I think. Something along those lines. Okay, let's move on to the next vote. And Hellraiser. There we go. I'm just going to take a drink. Okay, Hellraiser, September the 18th, 1987. Budget of 1 million, a domestic haul of 14.56 million. Clive Barker directing, Doug Bradley, Claire Higgins, Andrew Robinson, Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty. A mystical puzzle box, the Lamont configuration, unleashes sadomasochistic extra-dimensional beings, the Cenobites, into our world. A family inadvertently summons them, leading to chilling confrontations between human and hellspawn. It's doing well. 4th place in the top tier at the moment with 30 seconds left to go. Hellraiser was Barker's feature directorial debut. It achieved significant box office return. The character Pinhead, played by Doug Bradley, became the enduring icon of the franchise. The film introduced mature themes of pleasure, pain, and adult horror, distinguishing it from many slasher films of the era. It spawned one second, let me just get this vote. It is over. There we go. 4th place it finishes. It spawned a long-running franchise with many sequels and remakes. So Hellraiser finishes in top tier, 4th place in top tier with 54% of the vote. 20 of you voting it in 1st place, 8 of you in 2nd, 4 in 3rd, none in 4th, and 5 in 5th place. Some people not fans of Hellraiser there. Okay, let's just go back and see some of the comments. My first 18 at the cinema was The Crow. That's a good start. Great film. Is this the same guy who came by your house for the 50 cents you owed him? Yes, that's him. 50 pence. I lent him 50p and he woke me up the next morning banging on the door with his walking stick, asking me if I had the 50p that I owed him, rather than waiting for me to come to work and give it to him. It was for a bag of chips for my lunch. House 2 on 3rd tier is okay, but first of what tier is so wrong? Tony 4i says, I was terrified what was going to be on the floor then. Paul remembers him. Les was a feral little man, but lovable. Lovable? He had a tie that he wore all the time that had a cigarette burn through it, all the way through, because he would fall asleep in the projection room in his chair, smoking, and the cig would be in his mouth, and the ash, it would eventually drop off onto his chest. And I'm surprised the guy didn't burn alive, honestly. He was, yeah, and he's, yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak ill of poor Les, but yeah, you could have learned a thing or two about a bar of soap. RoboCop is more horror than Predator, says Tony Randall. James says, Les sounds like the guy from Human Centipede 2. Not far off. Not far off at all. Hellraiser is still terrific, iconic stuff, and really original for its time. And Tony Four Eye says, I don't think T2 was an 18. It wasn't. T2 was a 15. Muckman Movie says, when Murphy gets shot, it's very graphic gore, as is the acid scene. Yes, it is. It is. One of my all-time favorites. I love how grubby and dirty it is. What, Hellraiser? Oh, yeah, it's terrific. Great film. Really, really like Hellraiser. And there was a guy this weekend, I don't know if you saw him, Zara, but there was a guy at For the Love of Horror who had the full Frank outfit on, and it was just glistening away, just like it does in the film. It was a really great cosplay. Adam Allen sends in £5, says, hi, Darren, I hope you're well, my friend. Did you have time to watch Halloween Aftermath fan film? Hellraiser is top tier, terrific. I got back to my hotel room on Friday night late, and it was on, and I watched kind of 20 minutes of it or something like that. And it's a 2.5, was it 2 hours 15, something like that. I may watch it. I'm good with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. I'm one of those people that are quite satisfied with those. I'm I don't love Halloween Ends, but I don't hate it like a lot of people do. So I don't really need to kind of deviate from that. And James is a friend of the channels. Frank and I have had him on TSL before, and we've supported his previous projects. And I wish him well. He seems to be getting a lot of good positive feedback from it. And there was certainly a lot of people watching it when I tuned in the other night. There was over 1,000 watching. So I wish him well with it. I may, if I get a chance, have a look at it, but I've got a lot of other stuff to watch in the meantime. But no, I wish James well with it, because what I saw was certainly a massive improvement on the stuff that he's done in the past. And not saying anything ill about the stuff he's done in the past, but it looked like certainly an improvement. Paul says, I actually won the big box Hellraiser 2 in a film magazine competition. Probably still have it somewhere. Cool. Excellent. Have you seen the bus stop in London where VHS copies of Hellraiser keep appearing on top of it? So weird. Even now they keep appearing. Really? I don't know about this. John, you've got to tell me more about that. I've got to know where this bus stop is, because I obviously work in central London, so somewhere I can swing by and check out. I will do. But yeah, send me a message as to any information about that, and I'll take a look. Now there's a slasher, The Revenge of Les. Hellraiser 5 Inferno is interesting. Yeah, I've seen the four. Frank and I did the first four, and I got to admit, I was kind of like, that's enough. That's enough. No one should be good with Halloween Ends, says Tony Four Eyes. Yes, Darren, the skinless Frank cosplay guy is amazing. He was great. He really was great. Okay, let's move on. So we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get through. And so let's kick off that vote now. Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou. You'll send me the TikTok of the bus stop? Okay, cool. Thanks, Zara. Yeah, Prom Night 2. Any fans of Prom Night 2 out there? I haven't seen this. I'll be honest. Like I say, I always make sure I've seen all these movies, and I haven't seen it since this movie came out, which was October 1987. Canadian movie with a budget of $2.5 million, did around about 2.6 million at the US box office. Bruce Pittman directed it. 50 seconds left to vote, folks. Michael Ironside, Wendy Leon, Justin Louis, Lisa Schrage, I think her name is. Probably butchered that. A high school student becomes possessed by the spirit of Mary Lou. A prom queen who died at her high school prom in 1957 and uses her as a pawn to return and exact vengeance at her old school. Although Prom Night 2 has almost no narrative connection to the original Prom Night in 1980, besides the high school setting. Filmed in Alberta in Canada. 15 seconds left to vote. Its modest box office reflects its low budget and niche appeal, but it has gained a cult status among slasher fans. I think there was 2 or 3 sequels to Prom Night, if I remember right, and a remake as well. Okay, voting's up on Prom Night 2. It did okay. Midway through the third tier. 2 of you voting it in top place, 2 of you in second, 11 in third, 1 in fourth, and 5 in fifth. Paul says, second tier for me, a bit grubby, even though I have a life-size pinhead animatronic. Oh, we're talking Hellraiser now. Daz says, I love this film, much more fun than the first. Yeah, I seem to remember it being okay. Brandon Collins also says, love Prom Night 2. I'm gonna watch Prom Night 2 again. Quite enjoy Prom Night 2. Been at an age since I saw it, though. Remember nothing about this, so can't vote. Hellraiser remake was actually pretty decent. I didn't mind Hellraiser remake. I thought it was okay. I remember Mark Commode talking about the Hellraiser bus stop mystery on one of his review shows years ago. Had no idea it was still going on. That's mental. Was it just like Hellraiser VHSs that someone just puts up there? Is it the same one? They take it down, or do they just keep having to like replenish it all the time? Huge fan of Prom Night 2 and 3. The aesthetic is so nostalgic. You can tell it's Canadian. Felt like an adult episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Okay. Must give Prom Night 2 another watch. Can't remember much about it. No, me too, Colin. Me too. Tony Four Eye says Prom Night 2 was garbage. Should never have been called that. Leave the glorious disco slasher as a standalone. Leslie Nielsen. Man, nothing is going in a fourth tier. Let me have a look. Maybe not. Maybe not. You could be right, Tony. Movie Chat Moore says, will you and Frank do a best and worst of the Rockies? Probably not. I mean, we've talked about some of them before. I think we did an episode on Rocky 4. You remember when the director's cut of Rocky 4 came out? We did I think we did a best and worst of on that. If you have a look, it could be a members episode though, Richard. But we have done stuff in the past, but I can't see us covering the Rocky. I mean, we're primarily I don't know. I guess we do the best and worst of the 80s and 90s. Maybe, I don't know. If somebody requests it as part of the VIP Patreon thing, we may do it. But it's not something we're, actively pursuing or anything. But thanks for the super chat. I just love when Darcy, the male girl, cosplayed as Mary Lou on the last drive-in because she never went to her prom. Joe Bob danced with her. That's really sweet. Good old Joe Bob. Hellraiser bus stop is an old Kent road. Is it really? Okay. Oh, I'm not going down there. Shithole. There are numerous VHSs that appear, sometimes in patterns. Okay. Was the new Hellraiser remake or a sequel? It was a remake, if I remember rightly. It's worth a watch. It is worth a watch. I thought it was perfectly fine. If the Monster Squad VHS appears at the bus stop, nab it for me. I'm not going down the old Kent Road. Years ago I might have done, but not now. Reboot, as I remember. Prom Night, I mean. What else have we got? Eye of the Tiger. You like Rocky? Visit Backtrack Cinema. Yes, Jason's your man for all the Rocky stuff. And I did see recently that the set photos from I Am Rocky or whatever, the new film about the making of Rocky. And they looked good. The guy who's playing Stallone looked really convincing. And they're also doing a prequel to Rambo as well, aren't they? So that's something to watch. To First Blood. That's something to watch out for as well. The council removed the Hellraiser VHS, and a few days later, another appears. If you missed my last comment, it's on Old Kent Road. Yes, yeah. No, I'll look out for that. Okay, right. So last one was Prom Night 2, which finished in third place on the third tier. Let's see what's next. Evil Dead 2. Okay, right. Straight to the top. Can it crawl up the ranking on the top tier? Great movie. Is it popular enough to challenge the likes of Elm Street 3, Predator, and The Lost Boys? Let's see. 70 seconds left to vote, folks. Released on March the 13th, 1987. A budget of 3.6 million. A domestic gross at the cinemas of only 5.9 million. But a critic score of 88%. And an audience score of 89%. Directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell, Sarah Berry, Don Hicks, Denise Bixler. Ash Williams returns to a secluded cabin in the woods where audio tapes of incantations awaken demon forces. Possessed and alone, Ash fights terrifying entities. The film blends horror and slapstick comedy in a manic, over-the-top sequel. We are in first place with Evil Dead 2. Predator has been knocked out of the top two and won't make it to the final. That's brilliant because I didn't want to have Aliens and Predator in the final. I'm really pleased about that. As a film, Predator's probably the better movie, but in a horror tier, I'm glad that it's not going to win. That's terrific. Okay, 4 seconds left to vote. The vote is over. 25 of you voted it in first place, 3 of you in second, 3 of you in third, 1 of you in fourth, and 2 of you in fifth. I'm just going to put the link back in the chat there. 31 of you voted on that one. And yeah, Evil Dead 2 is in first place. We have to go the likes of Dolls, Creepshow 2, Bad Taste, and Angel Heart. I don't think any of those are gonna trouble Lost Boys or The Evil Dead, but we'll see. We'll see. There's still, it could, one of those might end up in the fourth tier. We'll see. We'll see. Thank God. What are you thanking God for? The Evil Dead 2 got in the top. Okay, we convinced our 5th grade teacher to let us watch those on the last day of school. He was great. He was super old and didn't give a shit. Great times. What was it you convinced? Sorry, was it what did we vote on? What, prom night? This better knock Predator out the second spot. It did. The horror legend that is Predator still hanging in there. Predator is gone, says Muckman. Look at all the joy there. Evil Dead 2 is such a blast. Nice to see it knock out Predator. Yay, Evil Dead beats Predator, says Daz. Also, we should have got more of Annie. She was great. I made it for my second vote. For my last second vote, says Adam. I remember seeing the Jonathan Ross UK advert for Evil Dead 2 loads. Yes. Yeah, a film I saw on VHS when it first came out. That Graham Humphreys artwork in the UK is just fantastic and far better than the skull that we get there. Matt Patterson says, your wish is granted, rate scary. My favorite Evil Dead film, says Muckman. Evil Dead 2 is a classic, says Paul. Some effects haven't aged well, but great creature designs and a lot of fun. Why did Bruce never make it bigger? He did okay. I think he did okay. He's, I don't know. I think as much as he's great in this type of stuff, his acting chops are just fine, aren't they? They're not amazing. But, stuff like Bubba Hotep, he's good fun in that. And even the TV show. What was that TV show now that he did? Oh, no, I don't mean Ash versus the Evil Dead, but he did that. Oh, God. This sort of private detective thing with the, I forget. Somebody will remind me in the chat. I watched a couple of series of that. And although he was good, let's face it, as much as we love Bruce Campbell, he's slightly wooden. He is slightly wooden. Burn notice. Thank you very much, Adam. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Bruce was great in sci-fi's Alien Apocalypse, says Daz. Evil Dead 2 is the most Sam Raimi-esque movie ever made. People like what they like, and the film is a lot better than some of the stuff you guys love. Shamrock says, I hate Evil Dead. Really can't understand the love for this. Wow. Okay. And The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. is a great show. Burn Notice is the one you're thinking of. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. Nobody agreeing or disagreeing me with about Bruce Campbell isn't the best of actors. What do we think? He's perfect for the stuff that he's in. That kind of tongue-in-cheek, you know, knowing horror comedy that he does so well. But in a serious role, it's kind of awkward to watch him, I think. I loved Burn Notice, says Tony. But Burn Notice was like the most popular show that no one watched. It just went on for years. I think, like I said, I got through like two. I do own them all on digital. I got through about 2 series, and then I was just like, all the episodes just blended into one. It was almost like it was like a modern day Magnum PI or something like that. There you go, Jude. No, he isn't. He's pretty samey and everything, but love him. We all love him. Bruce is a fun guy, but there's a reason he's stuck in B movies. Thank you, Daz. Bruce is great at what he does. In the 50s, he would have been a matinee idol. Oh, he's great looking. Fantastic. He was great in Spider-Man. All those little cameos he was great in. Come on, Bruce, don't hang around too long. Just, you know, get off there. Okay, let's move on to the next vote. It is Dolls. Okay, Dolls. What do we think of Dolls, folks? Released in April of 1987, a budget of 1.2 million. There's no real box office that can be found for this. I did find something that said it took about 2.3 million. Critics have it at 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. Stuart Gordon directed it. Stephen Lee, Guy Rolfe, Hilary Mason, Ian Patrick Williams, Carolyn Purdy Gordon, and Bunty Bailey. Bunty Bailey, what a name. Stranded during a storm, a father, his stepfather, and daughter seek shelter in a mansion of an elderly couple who make dolls. The toys harbor imprisoned spirits of criminals, and visitors who fail the couple's test find themselves transformed into dolls. Okay, 37 seconds. The film was shot in Italy at Empire Studios. Gordon conceived it as a horror fairy tale inspired by Bruno Bettelheim's The Use of Enchantment. And the movie's parents in the story, the toy-making couple, are among the horror's creepiest toy makers. Horror's creepiest toy makers in the genre. Despite the low budget, the film has retained a solid cult following for its whimsical yet creepy take on dolls and punishment. How are we looking for this? 4 seconds left. We're in third tier. And yeah, third place in third tier. Behind House and The Hidden, and ahead of Prom Night 2, The Gate, Stage Fright, and Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. 2 of you voted this in first place, 2 in second, 11 in third, 3 in fourth, and 2 in fifth. I'm going to put the link in the chat again, folks. If you've just joined, feel free to take part in the vote. Barry says Dolls is middle tier. Wraith UK says watched it recently, has picked up the Arrow VHS store box set. Pretty cheap. Dolls is a solid B movie, creepy and enjoyable Empire Pictures movie. This is a fun, decent film, but I prefer Puppet Master, says Daz9881. Awesome atmosphere has Dolls, quite unsettling in parts. Giant killer, yeah, the toy bear scene's ridiculous. I actually used the toy bear scene in the opening credit sequence that I did today. Got Dolls as part of the Arrow Empire of Screams box set. I enjoyed it. It is fun. It is fun, but it's kind of a little bit like Puppet Master, you know, that it's just good for one watch. That's it. I don't know why there are so many of those Puppet Master movies. Anyone celebrating the Rocky Horror Picture Show 50th? Me. I am going to watch it this weekend. I got somewhere. Where is it? Just came through. The 50th anniversary Rocky Horror. Huge fan of Rocky Horror. Love it to bits. Seen it on stage countless times. I've, like, ever since I was, I don't know, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, I've been watching that film on stage. Every time it comes around, I've seen it from big, lavish West End productions to kind of local town hall productions and things like that. Always something that I go and watch. Love it. Absolutely love it. Where we are. Darkman is my favorite Raimi film, says Wordy Word. Will that feature on here at all? Yeah, what was Darkman? Was 88, I think. Was it? Quite possibly. I think maybe yes, we would put Darkman in here. What do people think on Darkman? Maybe that's another one I have to put out. I like doing votes for these things I'm not sure on. So maybe we will put Darkman in here. Can't believe Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is so low. You are all no fun, says Brandon. Sam Raimi dragged me to hell and Darkman are good. Did anybody see Send Help, the trailer for Send Help, the new Raimi film? That looks interesting. Daz says The Little Right, written by S. Craig Zahler, is the best Puppet Master. Okay. Glorious, that boss tattoo looks good too. Oh yeah, the one on Frank's arm. Yeah. We had our 50th Rocky anniversary in the weekend. The 4K restoration is stunning. Yes, I'm really looking for. I so many times I put Rocky Horror Show on late at night. Love the film, absolutely loved it. And there's, if I hope it's not on there. I hope that I haven't looked what the extras are, but I remember getting the 40th anniversary edition. Was it the 40th or the 35th? I can't remember now. And Patricia Quinn does a commentary on there, and she's just drunk and spoils the whole thing. It's a bit annoying. So I hopefully they put something different on there. Haven't checked it out yet, but I'll certainly have a look at that this weekend. Rocky Horror Picture Show is best with a live shadow cast and audience participation. Yeah, it's good fun. Great fun. Okay, 3 films left, and the next one is Creepshow 2. Okay, let's see what everybody thinks of Creepshow 2. Decent sequel. May the 1st, 1987. 3.5 million budget, 14 million box office. Michael Gornick directed. So a lot of people think George Romero directed this. I think he did write it and produced it, but he didn't actually direct it. Louis Childs, George Kennedy, Dorothy Lamour, Tom Savini, an anthology horror film with 3 macabre tales, a vengeful wooden Native American figure, a monstrous blob in a lake, and an undying hitchhiker, all tied together by the comic book framing device. Although a sequel to the cult original, Creepshow 2 was directed by first film's cinematographer rather than its original director. The modest budget of 3.5 million, yet box office of 14 million, shows it made roughly 4 times its cost. The special effects and makeup were heavily influenced by veteran effects artist Tom Savini, who also acts in the film. And one segment, The Raft, became a popular horror show on home video rental shelves in the late 1980s. 20 seconds left, folks. The film has achieved cult status among horror anthologies, often compared to its predecessor for style and effect. Yeah, I remember when I first saw this, I was like, okay, it's not as good as the original, but it's fun. It still is a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed watching it over the years. In fact, I just got the recent Arrow 4K on the shelf here somewhere. And I haven't cracked it open yet, but I'm looking forward to watching it. The hitchhiker scene segment is always one that stands out to me. I really enjoy that segment. Thanks for the ride, lady. Where are we? Well, we're in top tier. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in top tier. 9 of you voting it in first place, 9 in second, 4 in third, 1 in fourth, and nobody voted it in 5th place. Okay, love Creepshow 2, says Tony Four Eyes. The Raft was good enough for the OG film. Raft's good fun as well. Anytime my mum would pick us up, my brother and I would say, thanks for the ride, lady. After seeing Creepshow 2, she was not amused. Creepshow 2 is good one in my opinion. Second favourite behind the first one. Creepshow 2 had the Blob before the Blob, true, but not. The Blob did come out in the 50s originally, so maybe not. Creepshow 2 is great. Thanks for the ride. Look at everybody. Thanks for the ride. Thanks for the ride. Not a big fan. Not 10% of the original. Why was the creep suddenly Tom Savini in a bad rubber mask and a killer bin bag? Oof. I didn't realize you felt so strongly about Creepshow 2, Paul. I didn't realize you weren't a fan. I thought this would have still been up your. I'm surprised, buddy. I thought you were a big fan. Yeah, I mean, Creepshow 3's dreadful. Now, if you want a bad film that's 10% of the original, well, it's less than 10% of the original. Creepshow 3 is pretty poor. But 2, I think it's decent. And I think it does hold up quite well. I know what you mean about Savini's mask. I mean, he must have thought, what the frickin' hell is this thing I've got on my face? Because it does look like, I don't know. It's a bit sort of Rocky Dennis, isn't it? It's just this big, huge face. Yeah, the 80s blob will always be better. I agree on that. The 80s blob is fantastic. We did an episode on the 80s blog on TSL, blob on TSL earlier this year, I think it was. And I was blown away by how much that movie holds up and how great those practical effects are. There's just a couple of shots in the film where you think, wow, that's dated. But on the whole, the effects work in that film is just top notch. It really is. Excuse me there. Okay, let's keep this moving. And we have 2 films left. We've got Angel Heart and we've got Bad Taste. Angel Heart is a bloody good film. Now, I don't know if many of you have seen it or not, or if enough of you love it to get it into that top tier and maybe, challenge the likes of Predator and Evil Dead and the Lost Boys, but we'll see. But, let's see what comes first. Bad Taste. Okay. Bad Taste is one of those movies that Paul, your cousin, first introduced me to. Bad Taste was actually released in New Zealand in 87. Probably didn't get to the likes of the UK and the US until 88, but it was released in its homeland in late 87. A budget of only 25,000 New Zealand dollars. 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. Peter Jackson stars Terry Potter, Peter O'Hearn. A small New Zealand town sees its entire population vanish. A paramilitary team is sent to investigate and discovers the locals are being harvested by aliens for a fast food franchise. 40 seconds left, folks. It was shot over 4 years on weekends in and around Jackson's hometown of Pukeera Bay. Using 16mm Bolex camera. The filmmaker himself, Peter Jackson, plays multiple roles, including an alien and a human character. 25 seconds left, folks. Many of the aliens were baked in Jackson's mother's oven. The Maori language town name Kaihoro in the film is a pun. Kai meaning food, Horo meaning village. Okay, 20 seconds. Has that frozen? 1 second. Looks like that's frozen. 1 second. It has. For some reason, it's frozen on 20 seconds. Hopefully, I can refresh and we can get this back. 1 sec. Yeah, it's going again. Okay. Currently in last place on the first tier is Bad Taste. Despite its tiny budget, the film earned recognition. The British magazine Empire ranked it 416th greatest film ever in 2008. Wow. Okay, so Bad Taste finishes in last place on the first tier. 8 of you voted it in first place, 7 of you in second, 4 of you in third, 4 of you in fourth, and none of you voted it in 5th place at all. Let's see what the chat's saying. Creepshow 1 still beats it for me, but Creepshow 2 has really grown on me over the years, says Matt Pattinson. Isn't Blob 1988? It certainly is, and it's down. It's listed for the next show. The Blob, The Fly, The Thing are best remakes of classic horror. Absolutely. I agree with you on that, Tony. The Blob is 88. Says Wraith. Yeah, we get to vote on the 88 Blob next time. It's top tier. A lot of Blob talk going on here. I had a 3D plastic framed Blob poster. Unfortunately, sold it. Regret that one. It's over. The Blob wins now, says Tony. The Frighteners is Peter Jackson's best movie. Really? Okay. Like, I'm not a big Lord of the Rings fan or anything like that. I enjoyed them when I watched them. I would never watch them again. Absolutely never watch them again. I've never watched them since they first came out 25 years ago. Yeah, couldn't watch them again. I can watch Brain Dead again. And movies like Brain Dead, Meet the Feebles, Bad Taste, I'm just praying he puts together those 4K versions one day, because they are movies that are difficult to get hold of. Wordy Word said Rocky Horror star Susan Sarandon is a relative of my friend. She came over here to Wales a few years ago to trace her family history. She was really down to earth. That's really cool. That's really cool. Isn't she married to Tim Robbins, I think, if I remember right? Peter Jackson plays 2 roles in Bad Taste and even fights himself in a scene. True. Great practical effects in Bad Taste, considering the budget. Yeah, there is one shot in Bad Taste, and I remember as a kid, and this is your fault, Paul, your cousin, supplying me with a video of this. I remember as a kid getting the video, 15 or whatever I was, and it's that opening scene on the beach when he shoots the guy in the head, and half of his head is blown off, and you just see the brain and the skull and the blood pumping out of whatever's left. Hideous looking, absolutely hideous looking. But you have to give him credit. 25,000 budget on that, shot over 4 years. That's insane. Insane. Daz says, I prefer Bad Taste over Brain Dead. I think I prefer Brain Dead. I do. I think I really do. The last, you know, I mean, obviously heavily influenced by the likes of Evil Dead and stuff, but the last half hour of that film is utter carnage. Absolute carnage. Saw it in the cinema as well. There's a lot in the top tier, but you could make a case for any one of them being top tier. This was a very strong year, says Brandon. Yeah, I agree, mate. James, I watched Hunt for the Wilder People the other night. I haven't laughed that much. The Hunt for the Wilder People is one of the funniest films I have seen. Taika Waititi is one of his first films, I think, isn't it? Sam Neill, and I can't remember the kid's name, but it's just perfect. What a absolute joy to watch that film. Really funny. Just a lot of great horror movies got made in this year, says Tony Randall. Lord of the Rings, a trilogy of people walking to it. Yeah, I can't be doing with it. My wife went to the cinema 13 times to see Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Did you go with her? I would question that, because that movie's like 4 hours long or something, or the extended version is. And you got the ads and trailers and the time that it takes to get to the cinema and get back again. Did you not question why your wife went out 13 times for half a day? Come on. Sam Neill's always a fave. Give Darren a like, says Tony Four Eyes. Yeah, that would be great. If you could like this video, that would be amazing. If you haven't subscribed yet, folks, we still have 1 vote to go, by the way. If you haven't subscribed yet, that would really... I know people say, you know, like and subscribe, and I know how annoying it is, but it does really help. And, you know, the channel does grow and word gets out. You know, it would be a big help if you could. If you've been watching this every week and you haven't yet subscribed, you know what? 50% of the people that watch this channel aren't subscribed. And it's just a tiny little thing to do. Click. And it would mean the world to me, really would. So if you could, brilliant. I'd really appreciate that. No Lord of the Rings love in here, is the Lord of the Rings so dull? Once Were Warriors made more of an impact for movies made here. Oh, James, yeah, I saw you at the start that you were in New Zealand. Yeah, Once Were Warriors was great. Jake the Mash. Great film. Absolutely brilliant. I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but even I wouldn't have went that many times. Yeah. What is this Lord of the Rings slander? Come on, it's just boring nonsense. The appendices on the extended cuts were a goldmine back in the day if you wanted to learn about film production. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. You're on about Lord of the Rings. No, I can't sit through those extended cuts. Just half an hour of shite that wasn't good enough to go in the film in the first place. Nah. Just joking. I know there are fans out there of this. Oh my God, can't believe I'm this late. First one I've missed. We'll make sure I'm around next week if there is a video for 1980. There will be. I'm already working on it already, buddy. Sorry for not being here earlier. I did watch your live with Dave, which was great. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was I did enjoy that live episode. And it seemed to go really quickly as well. Love how Clerks 2 takes the piss out of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, they just talk about the fact that it is just like 3 hours of people walking. The Lord of the Rings rant by Randall and Clerks 2. Yeah, even the fucking trees walked in that movie. Right, you're getting blocked again, Darren? No second breakfast for you. I didn't know you were a fan of Lord of the Rings, Zara. I've watched all 6 Hobbit and Lord of the Rings extended cuts in one 22-hour sitting. Sexy, I know. Oh, Brandon, Jesus. God, I mean, even the Hobbit thing, I watched those once, and it is just like there's a whole scene of them just fucking doing the dishes and singing. Man, let's kick off this next vote. Angel Heart, De Niro, Mickey Rourke. Who else was in it now? Charlotte Rampling, Lisa Bonet, Alan Parker, Midnight Express. Great director. Yeah, I had a little experience with this film at Sony when they did did they do a restoration? Was it a restoration or an anniversary screening? Can't remember now, but Mr. Parker came in and sat through it. Okay, in 1955, New York City down-and-out private investigator Harry Angel is hired by the mysterious Lou Cipher. What a name. Louis Cipher. Lucifer. Yeah. To locate a missing crooner, Johnny Favorite. His search takes him from Harlem to New Orleans and deep into a voodoo-tinged occult underworld and leads to dark and surprising revelations. Some nasty bits in this film. The film is adapted from the novel Falling Angel by William Hjortsberg, although Alan Parker relocated part of the story from New York entirely to New Orleans to emphasize the voodoo aspect. Okay, 10 seconds left, folks. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We're all over. We're over. Voting is closed, and the MPAA originally gave the film an X rating because of graphic sex scene. Parker removed 10 seconds to secure an R rating. The budget of $18 million made it among the more expensive horror/occult films of the era, but it failed to recoup that domestically. De Niro was originally approached for the lead detective role, but ultimately only played the mysterious benefactor. The film has been cited by director Christopher Nolan as an influence on his later work, Memento. Duke saying Angel Heart is probably the best movie on the list. I think technically, in terms of the quality of acting and the direction and everything, you're probably right. It didn't leave an impact on me when I saw it as a kid, but years later watching it, I appreciate this film. It's a cracking movie. It really is. Worth it for the De Niro scenes alone, says Wraith. Muckman movie, says Lisa Bonet. Angel Heart goes straight to the top with one of the hottest actresses of all time. Lisa is fire. Movie is great too. This is the film that Bill Cosby fired Lisa Bonet over because he felt her morals didn't align with the Cosby Show. What a hypocrite. Tony Randall says, my friend and I were clerks. He was Dante working at 7-Eleven convenience store, and I was Randall at the movie store. Angel Heart is pretty good. Great director. I remember most De Niro, now gone nuts, talking about the eggs as souls. Yes. Alan Parker also directed Pink Floyd The Wall. He did. Looking at the top tier, I would have it top 3, The Lost Boys, Prince of Darkness, then Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Okay, so let's have a look at that, folks. All the voting is over. We have... in first place, Evil Dead 2. In second place, The Lost Boys. Third, The Predator. Fourth, Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Fifth, Hellraiser. Sixth, Prince of Darkness. Seventh, Near Dark. Eighth, Creepshow 2. Ninth, Dario Argento's Opera. 10th, Angel Heart. 11th, Bad Taste. 11 movies in the top tier. Just shows you how strong 1987 was. 12th was Monster Squad. 13th was The Stepfather. 14th, House 2. 15th, Hidden. The Dolls at 16th. Prom Night 2 at 17th. The Gate at 18th. Stage Fright at 19th. And Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 in 20th place. And then we had that wild card, Jaws the Revenge, which finishes in 5th place and 21st position overall on the 5th tier there. Yeah, look at how many cracking films are in that top tier. What a great year for horror and Predator. George the Revenge is sat all alone at the bottom, says Kingslayer. It is. Nobody voted anything in 4th tier. Near Dark should have been top. Fact, it was top. It was in the top tier. It just, there were more people. So Near Dark had 17 people vote it in first place, whereas Evil Dead had 25 people vote for it in first place. Jaws 4 has been done dirty, says Tony Four Eyes. Is this the highest number of films in the top tier? I would imagine so, yeah. I think that's pretty much broken a record in terms of these shows. Definitely. Shamrock says, we all say is Jaws the Revenge. Well, all I'll say is Jaws the Revenge got more top tier votes than Angel Heart. Did it really? 7. But it got 15 in 5th, so it's just going to drag it right down, Shamrock. It's flawed. Angel Heart, let's have a look. Yeah, it got 8 in the top tier there, but you know, it was 3rd, 3 in 2nd, and 5 in 3rd, which helped its vote move it to the top. Okay, let's move over to... So Evil Dead 2 and Lost Boys will go through to the final. 1988 next week, 1989 the week after, and then the final... I can now tell you what date the final is going to be. Let me just have a look at this. So we're on the... What date are we on? We're on the 23rd. So the 30th will be 1988. The 6th of November will be 1989. And then the final... will be on the 13th of November. So that's something cool to look forward to. Let me just move over to this screen right here. And we can have a look at... Are we including Beetlejuice in 1988? I think so. If we're going to put things like Monster Squad in there, then I think Beetlejuice belongs in as well. 15 haters on Jaws. Okay, let's have a look at... so the finalists again are The Fog, The Shining, Halloween 2, An American Werewolf in London, The Thing, Creepshow, Psycho 2, Michael Jackson's Thriller, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, Elm Street, Fright Night, Return of the Living Dead, Aliens, The Fly, and then newly added Evil Dead 2 and The Lost Boys. I must admit, I thought it was going to be The Lost Boys and Predator. You know, I'm really pleased that the Evil Dead 2 made it into first place like that. My voice is starting to go, folks. Let's have a look also. Let me just remove this. And then we can also, at the same time, have a look at the movies, 10 of the movies that we're going to include next week. So they are Elm Street 4, Halloween 4, Halloween 4 right just before Halloween as well, which is pretty cool next week. Child's Play, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Maniac Cop, Pumpkinhead, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, Poltergeist 3, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and Friday the 13th, Part 7, A New Blood. Those are the ones that I've chosen so far. I've got another 10 to choose. When I did a search, it came up with more than 100 horror movies that were released in 1988. So there's still a lot more movies that I can consider. I've still got to look at when... I may have to look at Darkman, because I'm not sure whether that was 88 or 89. If it is 88, I think I may well include it. But yeah, that's... Somebody says, wow, 88 is terrible compared to 87. Really? You think? I don't know. There's some decent stuff there. There's some decent stuff. I think it's, you know, some of the sequels that we have there are maybe not the strongest. Poltergeist 3, New Blood, Return of the Living Dead, and Elm Street. But Halloween 4 is certainly a strong contender for best horror of 88. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 is a really strong sequel, I think. So yeah, there's still, I mean, there's other things that I'm going to put in as well. So I'll drop a rough list out probably tomorrow night, so you guys can see exactly what movies I'm thinking of. As always, I really enjoy your input. I really enjoy the debate over whether some of these movies should be included or not. What I might do is extend it to 25 and cut it down to 20 based on what you guys think. So I may throw a few kind of controversial ones in there as well. Okay, let me just catch some of the chat here before I go. What time are we on? Oh, it's midnight. Wow. Brandon says we should all drink to your and Frank's legs. Yeah, Frank fell down a gopher hole, and I fell up a bloody train station staircase. Poltergeist 3 is trash, says Kingslayer. Elvira is a funny movie. Yeah, I like Elvira. It's good fun. Looks like you've got your work cut out picking out of 100 horrors. Yeah. Honestly, there's so many, and a lot of shite I've never heard of as well. But you have to consider everything, I guess. Phantasm 2 and The Blob. Yeah, there's two movies that need to be included. Child's Play and Freddy. Frank bashing that top tier button for Halloween 4. I think a lot of people will. I think it's such a popular sequel as Halloween 4. I expect it to be in the top 2, I think. Darkman was 1990, was it? Okay, fine. That's not gonna work then, is it? Good shout. Right. Phantasm 2 is my favorite horror of 1988. I'll miss the Sick Show dude. We'll be in Leeds watching the Soap Girls and Wednesday 13. Are they finally going to play? I thought, weren't they due to play before and they sort of cancelled and pulled out because it was too filthy or something? I don't know. Wednesday 13 will be fun. I know that. Beetlejuice and They Live in 1988. Yeah, there you go. They Live's a good one. But do we class They Live as a horror? Is it just not like an action thriller, sci-fi thriller? I don't know. Let me know in the maybe that's something we can vote about. Maybe that's the one that I will put to vote this week. Should They Live be included in the horror of 1980? What are we on next week? 88. It'd be interesting to know whether you guys feel it should be in there. We were talking about the blog, and the blob is not even on there. It will be. Don't worry. The blob will be on there. Killer Clown. I just picked 10 randomly. That's all. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's another one that needs to be included. To be honest, Beetlejuice is more comedy than horror from 1988, says Chester. Muckman says They Live isn't horror. And Tony Four Eye says They Live is sci-fi. Zara, you just watched They Live the other day, didn't you? What did you think? Do you think it belongs in the horror section? They Live is an action sci-fi movie more than horror. Chester says They Live is horror. Okay. Just for the fight between Roddy Piper and Keith David, it needs to be included. That's one of the best on-screen fights of all time. It absolutely is. Okay, folks, thank you so much. I really do appreciate everybody joining me for this. Apologies that it's a week late, but I did warn everybody that we'd be taking a week out from this. We're back to normal now, seeing it through until the end. And I've got some really cool stuff planned to do on a Thursday evening when this is all wound up. I probably won't, at this point, be doing the tier ranking for the 90s because horror was just so... It wasn't there really in the 90s, was it? Not like it was in the 80s. So I have some ideas for something else to do, which will be fun. It probably isn't going to be a tier ranking, but still it'll be kind of something that's slightly interactive and debatable and divisive, and will include maybe some of the movies we've talked about over the last few months on these episodes. Okay, folks, TSL movie podcast. We've got the Dead Zone hopefully dropping maybe tomorrow night, maybe Saturday, depends when I get round to it. That's for Andrew, who I spent some of the weekend with up at For the Love of Horror. And also Frank and I are going to go live on this coming Sunday. No topic. I think we haven't done a Q&A for a number of weeks. So we're just going to take it easy, go live, see who rocks up, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. So remember to join us over there this Sunday. In the meantime, I shall see you next Thursday for the horror of 1988. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. Cheers.